Hi all, Violet here, second generation homeschooling mom of 3. I have a 9-year-old, a 6-year-old, and an infant. Today I wanted to share with you some of our favorite homeschool supplies from this last year. So let's get into it. So strictly speaking, you do not need any of these things, but these are all things that either we really enjoyed or that made our homeschooling lives easier this year. So the first thing that I'm going to show you are these pencils, which I guess you do need pencils to homeschool, but these are our favorite pencils. For my son, who is a new writer, I really like these Ticonderoga My First triangular pencils. I don't know if you can see, but that really helps him. They're fatter, shorter, and shaped different from regular pencils, so that really helps him maintain his grip. I've mentioned in several of my other videos that he worked with his OT a lot to kind of develop the fine motor to be able to write. And so we tried several different things. Like we tried golf pencils with grips and the big chunky just round pencils, but these worked the best for him by far. These were a lot easier for him to use. Now he's come a long way. His fine motor has developed enough that he can pretty much use any pencil, but he still really likes using these and prefers these to using other kinds of pencils. For my daughter, I also buy Ticonderoga pencils for her. They really are just the best pencils, but I do pay a little bit more for the fancy colors. I just think that that's a little bit more fun than having all yellow pencils. And it's, yeah, I don't know. I just think it's fun to start the new school year with new supplies, fun colors, whatever. So I did buy her the slightly more expensive ones. This next thing is a sun lamp. It's also sometimes called a SAD lamp, for seasonal affective disorder lamp. And basically what this is it's a really bright light, and you're supposed to use it in the morning. For me at least, when we turn it on in the morning, it helps me feel a little bit more awake and a little bit more alert, which doesn't sound like a big deal, but when you're used to spending winter feeling kind of blah, and then you realize that you don't have to spend winter feeling that way, it was a lot more amazing than I was expecting it to be, basically. So yeah, especially if you live in a place that has a kind of a dreary winter, I really recommend looking into one of these. Definitely talk to your doctor because it's technically a medical device, but we found it really helpful this year. The next thing that I'm going to show you is this visual timer. So this timer you can set, sorry, the glare on this is really bad, and then your child can see the bar decreasing as they're doing things. We don't use this much for school except for timing breaks. I try not to let my kids just go off and play if we're still kind of right in the midst of school, because then it gets to be difficult trying to bring them back. I don't want to interrupt them if they're playing nicely. They don't want to come if they're playing nicely. So we usually will set this timer for a few minutes and they'll go jump on the trampoline, or they'll maybe read a chapter in their book or something that will be easier to pull themselves away from to come back and finish school, because I do want them to take breaks when they need breaks, but I also don't want to spend all day doing school if we can avoid it. I want them to have plenty of free time to do other things. So this visual timer has also really helped with chores in the morning. They can set it for, like my son, one of his chores is dusting, so he sets the timer for 10 minutes and he dusts, and when the timer rings he knows he's done and he can see it counting down. He can carry it with them. And then for my kids' screen time, they'll also use this, because especially if they want to do their screen time on several different devices, like on the computer versus the TV, they can kind of portion it out and make sure that they're still only using, I give my kids an hour of free screen time, so they can make sure that they're still only using an hour of screen time. So this has been really helpful for us. I actually have one for each of my kids. My son has this blue one, and then my daughter has a purple one. They're battery powered, and you can choose if you want the alarm to ring for 3 seconds or 60 seconds, and if you want it to be soft or loud. So yeah, we've really liked these. There are some digital timers you can use, but I really like having the physical one for my kids to take around. Okay, the next thing I'm going to show you is this like fidgety toy. My kids are not hugely into most fidgets, but they really like this one because they can make interesting shapes with it. My daughter can hold it in her hand and play with it while she's reading, which is kind of really the only time that she feels the need to fidget a lot. My son likes to play with it while he's listening to things if he's not coloring or doing something else. But yeah, this one's a fun one, and I like it because it's not too loud. Like, it does make a little bit of a sound, but it's not enough to be distracting. So sometimes when I'm doing read alouds, if my son's done eating his snack or whatever, he'll play with this a little bit. So that's been good for us this year. Another kind of fidget my kids enjoyed this year were these little suction cup fidgets. They suction cup to the table, and then you can play with them while you're doing handwriting, for example. I think my kids mostly use them for handwriting, but they come in a bunch of different textures. This texture just happened to be my kid's favorite. It is a fun texture, but they have ones with ridges, ones with different kinds of bumps, ones with spikes. I'll try to see if I can find them and link them. These were actually given to me by a friend, so I'll see if I can find them. The next thing that I want to show you are these coloring books, which my daughter has been using instead of the coloring pages that come with our history program. She decided this year that she just wasn't interested in doing the Story of the World coloring pages or the History Quest coloring pages, which up till now she's enjoyed the History Quest coloring pages. And I don't know if it's that before the History Quest coloring pages for early times and middle times take up half a page, and this year the History Quest for US history, they take up a full page. They're still pretty simple, but they do take up more space. And then the Story of the World ones are a little bit more complicated and are also a full page. So I don't know if she just decided that was too much to color or what, but she did not want to do any of them this year, and that was completely fine with me. So one of my friends recommended these coloring books. Her daughter is similarly into fashion and things like that, but she really liked these more diverse fashion plates. So this series has South American fashions, African fashions, island fashions, and then nature fashions. So my husband is Colombian, so I showed him this book, and he was able to identify a lot of them. Some of them, you know, he lived in Colombia, so he doesn't really know what fashion in Argentina is, but he could look at a lot of them and be like, oh yeah, that's from Colombia, that's from Paraguay, that's from, you know, Peru. So that was cool, and my daughter really enjoyed coloring them. I'll kind of show you the inside of all of them. So and then this nature one is, I don't think really supposed to be any specific countries. And then along with these, my daughter got this year the Crayola like 100 marker set. And then someone gave her this pencil case for her birthday, or this pen marker case for her birthday. And she really liked having this way to organize these. So these are the Crayola Super Tips markers. I think there's like 100 of them in the box that she got. So yeah, she really liked organizing them all, and she likes having this case to carry them around in and take with her whenever she does these coloring books somewhere that's outside the house, which isn't very often, but if she does want to, she's ready. Last few things I have to show you are all games. This first one is Chemistry Flux, which we actually got from someone at our co-op. And we've played other versions of Flux, like we have Star Flux, and my kids don't like Star Flux at all. My husband and I do. There have been other versions of Flux that my husband and I have played that we don't really like. We don't really care for Zombie Flux. We don't really care for Original Flux. Some of them just take too long with the way that they're set up. It takes way too long to win, or yeah. Anyway, my husband and I like Star Flux, but the kids don't. So I saw this Chemistry Flux on the free table at our co-op, and I grabbed it. And my kids really like this. It has you talk in a silly voice if you have hydrogen. If you are wearing a real lab coat, one of the conditions lets you get something. I don't remember. But if you haven't played Flux before, it's a game where you can introduce new rules. The rules are always changing, and you're trying to meet certain conditions to win. Let me try to find one of those cards. The goals. And the goals can be changing as well. So it's kind of a very variable game. And I don't like it when it goes on too long. I feel like it gets old quickly. But this Chemistry Flux doesn't do that. It doesn't go on too long. And it has enough other silly things that it's fun. And it is mildly educational. I don't know that it's super educational, but you would eventually, I suppose, learn these chemical compounds. My kids already know a lot about the periodic table just because it has been something that they've been interested in. We've read some books on it before. But yeah, this was fun. It was a good addition to our game collection. And then the other two games are these Professor Noggin games. And these are trivia games. So we don't really play the game, we just do the trivia. These I bought to add to our dinner time because I felt like we needed something that we could all do as a family that wasn't as involved as listening to a read aloud or something like that, but that would still kind of keep us entertained if my kids were starting to fight, basically. But these Professor Noggin games, my kids have really enjoyed. They say that the trivia is interesting. They like the pictures. They're kind of expensive, so I've tried other trivia since then. We had originally tried Trivial Pursuit. That trivia is way too hard for my kids. Since then, we got some Brain Quest trivia cards, and they said that the trivia on those is boring and too easy. Anyway, I probably will get more of these. I'll probably have them each choose a set to get for the new school year, just because these really hit the sweet spot for us right now in terms of being challenging enough that they're still learning things from them, not so challenging that they're getting everything wrong, having interesting trivia, all of that. They're a little bit hard to find right now. They're sold out a lot of places. Rainbow Resource has like 3 of them in stock. So we'll see if those are games that my kids are interested in. But I was hoping to get maybe 2 or 3 more for the upcoming school year, because we've done these several times and we're kind of ready for some new ones. But we have really enjoyed them. So those are kind of all of our little homeschool and homeschool adjacent things that we've been enjoying this year. I'm going to link down below my homeschool favorites video from last year. All of the things in that video we still used this year. We still really like all of those things. So definitely check out that video as well. I'd love to hear from you if you had a favorite educational or like homeschool supply or game or something that you really enjoyed this year. And then of course I'll link all of these things in this video in the description box down below. I am an Amazon and Bookshop affiliate, so if you click on one of those links and make a purchase, I do receive a small commission. Thank you for watching.